Hello and welcome to Hidden History. The entire Tartarian Empire has been erased from the historical narrative. Throughout 1570 and onward until 1892, you would find a massive territory labelled Tartaria or Grand Tartary. Before 1570, the 1482 edition of the Geographia by Claudius Ptolemy showed Tartaria or Grand Tartary defined as Scythia. The unified Tartarian kingdoms were not composed of nomads. Instead, Tartaria or Grand Tartary was a civilization that stretched from Eastern Europe across the Asian continent and had colonies that dominated many areas on planet Earth. But suddenly, Grand Tartary disappeared without a trace. So what happened to this civilization? The destruction of Great Tartaria and the Old World Empire was a complete erasure of its historical narrative. The most undeniable evidence for the existence of Great Tartaria is revealed in the maps. For over 300 years, European cartographers from the United Kingdom, France, the Netherlands and Germany all consistently documented the vast landmass of Tartaria or Great Tartary, sometimes delineating it into independent Tartary, Chinese Tartary and Russian Tartary. This suggests multiple acknowledged territories unified by a Tartarian king or a Tartarian queen, and a form of supervised governance, not just concepts about a fantasy land. It was during 1892 Great Tartaria began to be erased from maps, as if a coordinated decision was made to remove the Old World Empire from the historical narrative of planet Earth. Hundreds of maps documented this empire for over 300 years, and then nothing. World atlases from the modern age ignore it, and history textbooks never mention Great Tartaria. It's as if an entire chapter of world history was intentionally censored. Why would anyone bother to erase the civilization of Great Tartaria and the Old World Empire so thoroughly? And what happened to the white cities those maps clearly showed? At the same time the Old World Empire was vanishing from the narrative, something extraordinary was happening across planet Earth. Huge buildings suddenly appeared from everywhere. These were massive structures that used Tartarian architecture and therefore had intricate stonework and design features that challenge techniques from the modern age. These were government buildings, train stations and entire urban centres. They were also constructed with unbelievable speed from 1790 to 1912. A lot of Tartarian architecture was displayed at the World Fairs. One of the most shocking was the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. Official records claim this white city, spanning over 600 acres, displaying elaborate neoclassical architecture. The 1893 World's Columbian Exposition was designed and constructed in just 2 years. 2 years for buildings that would normally take decades. So what was the official explanation? That they were temporary structures built with plaster and wooden frames. But when you look at the photographs, do such buildings look temporary? When you look into the Tartarian architecture at the World Fairs, you begin to realise the narrative about them is false. Shortly after the World Fairs or the World Expositions finished, every single one of these incredible buildings was quickly demolished. If you invested huge amounts of money and resources, why would you immediately tear down the structures? The reason is because these buildings were not constructed for the World Fairs. They already existed. They were sophisticated pre-existing buildings designed with Tartarian architecture by the Tartarians that were quickly renovated, passed off as new construction, and then destroyed to eliminate the evidence of the Old World Empire. This explains the remarkable consistency in style, the same classical columns, ornate domes, and precise stonework. Whether you were looking at Chicago and San Francisco in the United States or Moscow and St. Petersburg in Russia, none of these buildings were constructed by different civilizations at all. The architectural evidence goes even deeper. Perhaps the Tartarian Empire didn't just disappear, maybe it was concealed and integrated. Walk through any major urban environment built before 1900 and you'll see bizarre sights, buildings that appear to be sinking into the ground, first floors that are now basements, and windows at sidewalk level. There is evidence of mudfloods all over planet Earth. During these years, you had the Great Frost in the 1700s and many supervolcanoes erupted on planet Earth. Many geological disasters struck the planet and the mudfloods buried and swept away the white cities of Great Tartaria and the Old World Empire under layers of silt, gravel, soil and debris. In Seattle, entire blocks of buildings show their initial ground floors buried beneath the street levels of the modern age, which became the famous Seattle Underground. Even in the New York City subway system, construction workers continually uncover precise, sophisticated handiwork far beneath the urban sprawl. Historians from Western science define these discoveries as strata of urban development. They argue that street levels in the United States of America or mainland Europe naturally rise over time as older foundations are built upon the roads and are repaved. But this doesn't account for entire floors being buried beneath the ground. It required a catastrophic event to bring about such features. And most importantly, why did this phenomenon appear so consistently across planet Earth during the same years that Great Tartaria was disappearing from the maps? The scale of construction which the Tartarians used suggests they possessed a kind of occult technology we still haven't fully mastered. We also have the unique star forts found across planet Earth. All of these are bizarre geometric structures with precise angular shapes, while academics from Western science classify them as military fortifications, which some of them were. But actually, many star forts were modified or adapted. Therefore, some of the star forts were constructed with occult technology by the Tartarians, with geometric precision, proportion. The positioning of these star forts suggests they were designed according to principles of resonance and electromagnetic field manipulation, built to channel and focus the ether. The concept is reinforced by the acoustic evidence within old world buildings. Step inside any cathedral or government building from this era and you'll notice incredible acoustic properties. Sounds resonate and amplify with supernatural precision. Such buildings weren't merely designed for better sermons. They were built as massive resonance chambers, as healing temples and light temples by the Tartarians, and were spaces intended to amplify sound frequencies for restorative purposes. If the various Tartarians had mastered this occult technology centuries ago, if they could power their white cities without burning fossil fuels, move massive stone blocks using sound frequencies, and transmit the ether across vast distances, that knowledge would threaten the entire foundation of the third-party debt usury banking system. And that's a knowledge that certain individuals would desperately want to erase. When you look deeper into the Tartarian Empire, you will also realise that there was a huge population of white giants, which some have defined as the Tartarian giants. Walking through any ornate building from the time of the Old World Empire and you'll notice odd proportions. doorways towering 12 to 20 feet high, staircases with enormous steps, and ceilings 3 times higher than what we see today. Who would use such towering designs if not the Tartarian giants? Furthermore, historical accounts speak for themselves. During the 1800s and early 1900s, newspapers regularly reported the discoveries of enormous skeletons across the United States of America. Some of the skeletons were reported to have measured 8 and even 9 feet in height. The records of Smithsonian Institution from this period mention numerous acquisitions of unusually large human remains. But here's the suspicious part. If you try to find any of these massive skeletons in museum collections today, they've all vanished. Such institutions seems to have systematically removed these remains from public view. Why? Because acknowledging the existence of the Tartarian giants would fundamentally challenge our understanding of the bogus theory of evolution and human development, raising uncomfortable questions about what happened to them and how humans from the modern age inherited the remnants of the old world empire. If some Tartarians were actually the white giants or had descended from the Hyperborean giants with the advanced occult technology, how did they disappear so completely? And who had the potency to erase all the evidence of the Tartarian giants? We have been told many lies as part of the historical narratives in the Western world, but we are never told about the Great Resets. These have often been climactic changes where individuals and policymakers have found coordinated ways to rewrite our entire past, as he who controls the past controls the present, and he who controls the present controls the future. Many disasters occurred during these years, such as the Great Fires, with the biggest being the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Such destructive events were coordinated attacks designed to destroy evidence of the Tartarian Empire. The Great Chicago Fire, for example, is said to have specifically targeted the most elaborate buildings which displayed ornate Tartarian architecture, while leaving the simpler structures untouched. It sounds crazy, but when you look into this, there is so much evidence which confirms it. Finally, examine historical photographs from 1887 to 1894. You'll notice something unsettling. The streets of major metropolitan areas, New York City, London, Paris, often appear virtually abandoned. While conventional narratives of Western science blame long exposure times for the absence of people, the scale of the emptiness is startling. Are these merely photographs of less crowded streets, or are they evidence of the white cities that were swept clean after a cataclysmic event? The mud floods, the disappearing maps, the impossibly fast construction and demolition of monuments and buildings, and the vanishing bones or skeletons of Tartarian giants all point to a single conclusion: that we are looking at the most coordinated historical cover-up in human history, designed to conceal the existence of free energy systems, the Christ awareness, and the spiritually based civilization of Great Tartaria that once dominated planet Earth. What happened to Grand Tartary or Great Tartaria? Thank you for watching, everyone. Please subscribe if you haven't. You can also join the members section where we have exclusive content. See you in the next video.